Hey guys, I'm joined by a very special guest. I'm really delighted to be joined by Magic Mike from the Guna podcast. I'm so excited to have you on because we were just saying off air, we've never really, spoken face to face. You've always been on shows that I've watched, I've commented, but it's finally nice to meet you. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, and I'm. This has been too long in coming. I'm really glad that you.
Yeah.
Really glad to, hold on, I'm getting some echo. That's my fault. I'm a podcaster. You'd think I'd know how to handle these things, but I got audio coming through YouTube that's confusing me. But as I was saying before I interrupted myself, it's a pleasure to finally talk to you. I've watched some of your programming, and I've certainly seen you in the chats of a lot of the podcasts that we've watched together. And I love what you're doing, and I'm really, really happy that my first delve back into an Arsenal podcast since this stressful season ended is with you.
Oh, thank you. And I'm really happy to have you on here. Like you said, it's finally good to meet you and chat about Arsenal. Do you know what? Even throughout the Euros, I do actually miss Arsenal a lot. Like, do you miss, like, I think if you ask a lot of people this question, they'll pick club over country. But do you prefer Arsenal or England? What are your thoughts on,
Oh,
like,
I prefer Arsenal to eating and sleeping.
yeah,
Certainly, I prefer Arsenal. Now, it's funny because most people would think when they listen to my voice that I couldn't care less about England's national football team anyway. I mean, I'm American after all. I'm not English, but they're like 1 and 1A as far as I'm concerned. I don't know who the 1 and the 1A is because, my 2 years growing up that I spent in London, which is really where my passion for Arsenal came from, which is now 35 years ago, more than 35 years ago, included at the very, very end of my 2 years, the 1990 World Cup in Italy, which the World Cup itself was not one of the greatest World Cups ever played. But England's run to the semifinals and their heartbreaking departure in the semifinals was just magical. And I just fell in love with the whole thing. So ever since then, and especially at the time, I mean, that World Cup was the USA's first World Cup. And of course, we looked like it. We were out very quickly. We've done a little bit better as time has gone by. But every World Cup I've rooted for England. I've rooted for the U.S. And of course, in the Euros, we're not involved here in the U.S. So England's always been my team. I got really caught up in the "It's Coming Home" stuff 4 years ago or 3 years ago, I guess it was. And but it's club over country. But what I am able to do that a lot of people seem not to be able to do is root for players I normally hate when they've got the England shirt on. That guy that used to play up the road a little bit, when he scores for England, he's great. When he skies it over the crossbar against France, he's a Tottenham player.
Yeah, it's quite. Yeah, I've always definitely preferred club over country. I feel as though, like, I suppose with Southgate as well, a lot of people have questions about him, and at times we don't play the best football. So I do feel as though, like, Arsenal, it just feels a bit more special, I think. But yeah, the Euros for me, like, how are you finding it? Because for me, I think it's been quite great to watch a few teams that I didn't expect to do as well. I mean, I've really enjoyed it. What have you made of it so far?
I love it for a lot of different reasons. I mean, first of all, these tournaments, much like the regular football season for us here in America, the games are just at perfect times. That when I prefer the tournaments that are in Europe to the tournaments that are in America, like Copa America is getting ready to start with Brazil and Argentina and Chile and the US and Canada and Mexico. And all those games are 7, 9, 11, 10 o'clock at night. And that's fine. But to have a game on it at 10, at 1, or no, at 9 a.m., at noon, at 3, it's perfect because I have it on while I'm working. And then, it doesn't interrupt your evening. But I mean, the football has also been great. You get to see these teams that don't play together as often, but all these different players from all over the countries and the different leagues that they play in. And I think the football has generally been pretty good. There's been a lot of goals, a lot of not too many upsets. Albania has been exciting to watch. What was the upset? I guess it was Slovakia. They they beat Belgium, was it, or was that Slovenia that beat Belgium or tied Belgium? I'm already forgetting the game's already running.
Yeah, it's quite cool how much football on all the time. It's crazy.
The most depressing part of these tournaments is when they go from the group stages into the elimination stage, because then there's just one game a day.
And there is so sad.
Like it goes from that like mania of for the next week, we're about to have 3 on most days, 3 and then 2 Euro games a day, and then 2 or 3 Copa America games at night, and it's just all spaced out. So I'm basically not going to see my wife for the next month, I think, and she's fine with it.
Yeah, it's been so busy, the schedule, so it'll be quite strange. Yeah, I agree with Phil. 3 games a day. It's just so nice, having that football on all the time. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've been really loving to see the Arsenal players play. Even watching Saliba, the fans, I don't care. Havertz as well. But for me, I've been really impressed with Saka as well. I feel like he's going to have such a good tournament. I mean, in our first England game, he obviously got that assist, and he just, for me, he stood out a lot. He just had so much energy that we've seen this Saka at Arsenal, but I feel like it's so lovely for other people to see, what a great player he is for England.
Yeah, it really elevates his status. I wish it would elevate his protection when it comes to the regular Premier League season, and how other England players tend to be highly protected, and he and a few others don't. Won't go into why that might be. Because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but it's just to keep on the positive side of things. I don't know. We have different commentators here than you do over there. I wish that we had yours, but I mean the commentators for the England game the other day were absolutely glowing about Saka. He was torturing the left back. And until he came out, because he had just run the entire game, they couldn't speak more highly praised of him. And it's great to see, because he did kind of struggle with injury, and in some games this season he looked a little overplayed, a little tired. But when you look at his season as a whole and the way he started off the Euros, I mean, he's everything he's meant to be. Fantastic.
Yeah, I definitely echo everything you said there. I think it's amazing to see other people, see what we see. And I mean, I suppose for Arsenal, as Arsenal fans, we see how amazing he is, but I suppose rival fans can be a bit on his back and don't understand how great he is. So I feel like I really do hope he can go far, especially for him. I think he's going to have a really good tournament, as well as Foden as well. It's quite interesting, though, the comments people make at the moment, Saka, the way he can flourish in different systems under different managers, where the way Foden at Man City to being at Gareth Southgate England, it's a very different type of situation for Foden to be in. So for me with Foden, I've said this, I think he'll have a good tournament, but I don't think he'll be as good as he was at Man City. What do you reckon about Foden throughout the tournament?
Yeah, I agree 100%. And again, reflecting back on what commentators were saying, and in this case, I think it was a clip I saw of Micah Richards and others talking about him over there, just being somewhat critical of his performance against in the England game. It's one game, but I agree that it is kind of a system thing, and Saka's kind of got that. As long as they're not exclusively trying to shut him down by putting 2 people on him, by having a world-class left back, and by no means did they have that against Saka the other day. He's going to get his touches. He's going to be pushing forward and attacking the left back. Foden, it's going to be different under England. It's going to be different under Southgate. He's a great player. I think you can't say he didn't deserve the Player of the Year awards that he got. You could argue for other people, but you can't really argue against him. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens in the next game. But Foden, I mean, for all the talent in the world, you have to be given the license to do certain things. And Gareth Southgate seems to be the football version of a restrictor plate in racing, where you just he wants you to be conservative. He wants you to not make mistakes. And sometimes that keeps you from actually doing the things that make you special.
Yeah, I think with Southgate, it is very different to how Foden would really play, at Man City. So, yeah, I think that's another thing. I've said throughout the tournament, obviously winning it would be amazing. I don't really care how we win it, but along the way, I do want to see us, playing a lot of good football. At the first half, we were really good, then in the second half, completely different. So I think the performances are going to be big for England. I also wanted to answer this as well for us. Phil says, did you notice we have 9 straight games in London, November, December? Do you think that could be a benefit? What do you think, Mike?
Well, first of all, Phil, thank you for your comments about my my weight loss. It's been a while now, but you always point that out, and I appreciate that. You know, I live in this is now the third time I'm saying this. I live in a country that is enormous. When you know, if you play a game every single week, and there are certain sports that do this, and you're flying from one end of the country to the other and back, and then 4 days later you're flying to another country and that sort of thing. That would be taxing for you for anybody. I don't know that having 9 games where 3 of them are in Sheffield and Manchester and Birmingham are really that big of a deal. So I don't know that it's a benefit or not. I also noticed that West Ham does not have a game that takes place outside of London until like the second week of November or something like that, from the beginning of the season on, which is, it's just an insane, it's an insane coincidence of scheduling, because their home games are all against teams. Well, their home games don't matter. They're all in London. The away games are all against the London teams. And it's bizarre. So no, I didn't notice that we had 9 straight games in London, but I think it's who you're playing, not necessarily where you're playing.
Yeah, I suppose in a way, if it's all in London, I suppose the travelling wouldn't be, a big thing. The players would.
It'd be great for me if I was in London throughout November.
Yeah, it'd be really good. It's good for the Arsenal fans that can travel. But yeah, I totally agree. I think I suppose it's a good thing, but I think it can be quite tough coming up against these teams. But I also have this confidence with Arsenal now that whoever we're playing, like I know I think when we play Man City, Liverpool, those are the games that I do, get a bit nervous about, because, when we're competing, we need to win these type of games. But I just feel confident going into the season. But I know the schedule is going to be hard, especially with the players, Euros. I really hope we don't come back with any injuries. Like, I'm sure Declan Rice, Saka, Saliba, all of them will be okay. But for you, how do you feel? I know I don't jinx it. I'm just thinking, please, no injuries. But coming off last season, we got so close, and to be honest, I felt quite proud of the team. I felt more proud than disappointed. But for you, how do you feel about going into the new season? Like, I suppose it does depend on who we bring in, which could make our season a bit more better. But at the moment, how are you feeling about going into the new season?
Well, there are some things that can change on a dime and that you can't control. Yeah. Injuries, just a player just kind of downing tools, which you wouldn't expect. But there are some things that can happen, and you can say this team was equipped to win the treble. I'm not saying our team is equipped. I'm just saying, to a team that you might think that at the beginning of the season, things can happen that by November you're just hoping to compete. But then there are things that you can just know are in place. And last season, the one before last season, where we just missed out on 4th. And when we were, I'm thinking the season before.
I know there's so many seasons. Yeah, I know what you mean.
In this arc here, no, 2 seasons ago, where we were said to have bottled the league, and we clearly just inexperience and lack of depth and some key injuries, just slowed us down in the last couple months of the season. A lot of people said, well, you've just bottled your best chance at the league because everyone else will get better. And that we're not going to get all the luck that we had that season. And I said, you can't tell me that this isn't, yes, we had some youthful inexperience and poorly depth situations where, we just had no answer when Saliba got hurt. That's the sign of a team who's still in a process, for lack of a better word, and maybe was punching a bit above our weight to get to where we had to bottle it at the end. Yeah. But it was a consistent building of a foundation of a team that wasn't just a one season wonder. It wasn't a Leicester City where every single thing went right and everything went wrong for everyone else. We were very, very good, and the team was together. So that showed the following season, because we approached the season completely differently. We actually kind of started a bit slow and kind of finding our footing while not losing too many games to get us behind, and then really finished the season off very, very strong, save for one game against Aston Villa, one half against Aston Villa. You just can't see that not continuing into the next season.
Yeah.
We will upgrade. How many different positions we do that in, I don't know, but we're unlikely to lose anybody that we don't want to lose. And we're likely to gain a few people that we'd like to gain. And that in turn will improve our strength. And the team seems as together and unified behind Mikel Arteta as they could possibly be. So, I don't know if you can make that leap from second place to first, because we don't know what Man City's going to be next season. We don't know if they're just the extension of what they've been, if they're going to struggle under the pressure of boredom being first all the time, or, potential penalties. We can't control that, though. We just have to do our thing. And I think we will be there or thereabouts. And I think we'll have another fun yet stressful title challenge next season, and hopefully get that much further in the Champions League, and be competing for every honor like we really should be.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to read this one out as well. The second half against Villa killed us. Still didn't understand what happened. That game was just that second half, like, my heart was just, I believed so much we were going to win it, but then when we were getting each game, like, things could just change like that, and I knew when Villa won that we weren't going to do it. But that was devastating, that game.
It's crazy because so many people have pointed to that game and say, well, we bottled the league in that game, and like, just completely forgetting that. What were there, 9 games afterwards, 8 games after that we won every single one. And the games before that, for the most part, we were looking good. I mean, we had a bad day, and over the course of a season, you have to not drop the points against the West Hams, against the Fulhams, that really make that margin so tight that you can't afford to have that one bad game in the last 5 months of the season and have that cost you. So it's a full season thing. No one game you can blow the league in unless you have to go perfect to win the game, to win the league, and that's never been the case.
You can't expect us to win every single game. There will be tough times along the way, and for me, looking back, I don't really look on any particular games. I think, like you said, to win our last 9 games, that is a lot, and that's pretty good for us to do that. But I think the only game that I just feel a bit disappointed was the Fulham game, because I'm pretty sure they had 10 men, or we should have just won that. But I know afterwards, after Dubai, after the team had a break, we were just like the Arsenal we saw the season before that. So I think I couldn't really expect anything more from the team this season, if we're being honest, because they did do a lot, winning, so many big games, against the big teams. I just think it's these fan margins where you've got to pick up these points that do feel disappointing. It's like Phil said, you almost have to be perfect, especially with Man City in the title race. It's so hard competing with them.
Yeah, I mean, we're not in the normal. I mean, even in the 80s with Liverpool, Liverpool were known as being the best football team in the world. They were unbelievable, but when you look at their point totals in the first division at the time, they're not 91, 92 points most of the time, if at all. The season that we won in 1989 against Liverpool, we were, I believe, I should know this because this is like the highlight of my life.
Yeah, I know that moment.
It was something in the 70s or like 80 or 82 points, something like that, won the league that year.
Yeah, it is hard, really, because I know the season before that we had less points, so it's a good way that, in fact, we're ending the season on a high and getting as many points as we can, even though towards the end of the season I'll always have a bit of hope, but I think there's a big part of me that knew that Man City wouldn't drop points, and that's probably what makes it so much more difficult, because I just think these teams, deserve that, and I hope next season we can do that. It's going to be hard, I think, especially coming back from the Euros, and the players will be pretty exhausted as well. And I suppose if, say England win the Euros, and they'll have that adrenaline as well, and they'll need time to kind of have a rest and switch off. So I think it does depend as well with the summer transfer window. And I did want to ask you about that, because I just would love to know, like, what sort of players would you like us to bring in? Because I feel like with how busy the schedule is, I feel like we need to have a bit of rotation. So who would you like to come in, and what positions do you think we need to strengthen in?
I would like really, really good players to come in. That's about as specific as I can get. I have a proclivity to just, you could get so sucked in with transfer rumors and online, and from journalists and from ITKs and from people who know what they're talking about, and for every 50 players that we're linked with, we might end up getting one or two, and then one that we weren't even linked with that we'll get. And I've gotten to the point where at this point I have finally gone from being proactive in trying to say, okay, well, who should we sign? Who are we going to sign? Why didn't we make a bid for this player? There's too much of my personal energy that's going into that, and not having it really affect anything at all. So, I don't want to not answer your question, because it's a pretty reasonable one and a good one, but I've gone to kind of saying, you know what, Edu and Mikel seem to have a pretty good strike rate when it comes to people that they bring in, aside from Willian, and a couple players who haven't completely worked out, like Nuno Tavares, and a couple others. But I mean, when it comes to the big splashes that they've made and the players that they've brought in, look, for every Viera who hasn't necessarily seemed a 35 million pound player, we've gotten Odegaard for less. We've gotten Trossard for less. And so at this point, rather than me say, oh, we need Osherman, we need Tony, we need, and I don't believe that all these players would be the right guys. I want to let them do their work, because unlike in the Arsene Wenger era and the 100% ownership with Kroenke era, where we were dabbling and dragging our feet and what's the word they used? Oh, dithering in the transfer market. I trust this leadership team to get the job done, and I'm just excited to see who we bring in. Yeah. I just cannot devote the energy to trying to predict or demand or any of that type of stuff. But yeah. But it's a reasonable enough question. Who do you have your eyes on?
Yeah, I'm quite like you, to be honest, because like Phil mentioned here, there's a lot of more clickbait things. Like I've seen a lot of things, and I don't think we're necessarily linked to them. I think it's just people wanting to make a video and talking about it. But I think for me, with Edu and Arteta, like you said, we've built this trust with them, and don't get me wrong, there will be the odd few signings, like mentioned Willian, that some just don't work out, and especially if you come from a different league, you can't predict how it's going to go for them. You can only hope it's a risk that will pay off. But I think, like you said, I feel quite confident. I feel like really interested to see who they'd want to bring in. I think for me though, I think a striker is definitely one that I want us to focus on the most. I mean, I know the midfield is another thing, because Partey, I don't know if he is going to stay. So if he did leave, I think we definitely need someone else in. But I suppose if he's still here, it'd be good to bring someone else in, because he gets injured like the majority of the season. And but I feel as though I don't.
Thank goodness for the Jorginho signing, by the way.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
I thought was a bit ridiculous, but I mean, how much? Look, he's not Jorginho at his best right now. Is not Thomas Partey at his best.
Yeah.
But Jorginho was a heck of a lot better and more valuable for us. Deputizing for Thomas Partey compared to who else it would have been. I guess Sambi Lakanga wouldn't have gone on loan, and he would have been there. But I mean, that would have been a mess. But I think we need our guy for the future. Jorginho is a good 2 to 3 year patch. It was a 2 year patch or a year and a half. Looks like it's going to be 2.5 now. But, I think that's the area. I don't mind answering questions so much about the areas that we need to improve. It's just the speculating on who and that sort of thing. So you're on the right track as far as where we need to bring people in.
I definitely think with Jorginho, I think, like you said, I think he's a very good player. I think he's quite underrated, but I think as well, he wouldn't necessarily, be a starter. It does depend on the squad we have, going into the season, but feel quite comfortable with him. I think if the game's not going great in midfield, if we lose a bit of control, he's good to bring on and help calm that down. And I think his experience is so important because we do have a young squad. I know some of them, like Saliba, has been on loan, been in Champions League before, but I think Jorginho is obviously a winner, and I think he's done a lot better than what I thought. I mean, when we first signed him, I was a bit confused because I feel as though he's had his prime time at Chelsea and he's had the good times, and then he came here, and I know we used to be that team where players would come and they would be like a retirement team. But
we're the MLS of the Premier League. Like the entire MLS has been told. I mean, it's not quite accurate, but I mean it's called the retirement league because you have Christian Benteke going to my local club in DC, and all of a sudden he's back to scoring 97 goals a season, but because it's easy for him. But yeah, I think we can put to bed the whole just if they happen to play at Chelsea at any point in their career, they're garbage. Because now, finally.
Yeah. We've signed a few actually good Chelsea players, like Havertz as well. I think he's been amazing. Like he's been a brilliant signing, and I feel like buying Chelsea players isn't a bad thing, but I think we've really learned as fans, especially when we first signed, Ben White, Ramsdale. I think as fans, we've learned to be patient and wait till they've actually played on the pitch before we make judgments. I mean,
even until they played on the pitch for a full season, because I mean, some people had their mind made up about Havertz. They had it made up when he came in, but then after 2 months. Yeah, it wasn't a great start for him. I'll be perfectly honest, but it was a decision. His fate was sealed to so many people that just have egg on their face now. And I just, I've learned to be a little bit more patient because really you have no choice. If
you've got to be patient.
What is our impatience going to do other than just raise our blood pressure and make us sick? I mean,
yeah. Oh God, don't mention Gallus. Well, do you know what? We've had it hard, really. I mean, I feel like we're a club now where players want to come here, which is obviously, it's such a nice feeling because a few years ago we were sort of a team where players would want to leave our club. So it's such
a team that players used to use to raise their sale price to other clubs. Like they would use us knowing that they weren't going to come to us, and then and then they'd sign for United or City or Higuain, like those sort of transfer sagas. It just you couldn't really put anything at face value that we were actually going to sign the player because we've just seen it so many times before. It's all changed now.
Yeah, we've had it difficult, and I feel like now. We're going good. And I wanted to speak about this. After 2 months, how many of us thought Havertz would be central to our success? I'm going to be honest, when we signed Havertz, right, I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. I was like in the middle, but say his first 10 games, like, I'll be honest, I was really running out of patience because I think you look at the money that, 65 million, and there's a part of you that might think, we could have used that money in a different position. But I think as well, you do have to give players time. And as someone like Havertz, I think he lacked a lot of confidence at Chelsea in the end. And I know he did score in the Champions League final, but I just feels like he needed to come somewhere new. We've seen the way Arteta can get the best out of Shaka, and I think that's what's amazing about Arteta, him being able to get the best out of these players. And I think with Havertz, I think next season, I just feel like he's going to get even better. I just think he's needed time to settle in.
Havertz is a confidence player, and that can be seen as a weakness of a player. You'd rather have a machine like who's just going to perform no matter what the circumstances, no matter who he's playing with, who he's being coached by. That would be ideal if you could have 18 robots in the squad every single season, every single game. But that's not how the world works. There are some players who need an environment that's conducive to their style of play and to their comfort. And, Kai Havertz clearly is one of those types of players. And, like Aubameyang is as well, for example. And we saw how that went from confidence to not feeling secure in his spot. And then maybe back a little bit to confidence again in Marseille. So, one of the reasons why I'm like, I'll go with this transfer. I remember exactly where I was when I heard about this. I was at Disney World at Epcot Center was in the English pub in the England area, finding out that we'd signed Havertz for $65 million. And there were two things that I had a problem with. One was, of course, the price tag. Given how far down Havertz had fallen from the player he was when he got there from Bayer Leverkusen, I would not have thought that his value was 65 million. And what I don't know, obviously, is were there other teams that were in for him and they were bidding 62 million to make us bid 65 million? Why did we do it for that much? Could he have been gotten for 45? Edu's not dumb. They're not going to overpay for a player by 20 million. That just surprised me. And the fact that they did it before the end of June, which frankly helped Chelsea's financial fair play situation by giving them big, it wasn't a huge profit for them, but it gave it to them before the end of the financial year. And I'm all into football finances and stuff like that. So, it seemed like they could have waited until the beginning of July, and it seemed like you would have thought they could have paid less for him. But I wasn't opposed to the signing because, we knew Havertz was a great player, just like you knew, that De Bruyne was a good player. And De Bruyne didn't really get much of a chance at Chelsea before he went back to Germany. But Angel Di Maria, I think, was another situation like that. And we've seen it so many times now since with Romeo Lavia and Moises Caicedo. Players go to Chelsea and they're in this dog-eat-dog, impersonal, clearly personally enriching environment. And for players to whom it's important, excluding Cole Palmer from that equation, they're going to suffer. And when they get fuel and emotional feedback and teammates who love him and support him from the start and want him to be a functioning member of the team, he's going to thrive. And towards the end of the season, especially, I just remember that Sheffield United game. It was an away game that I was at, and the final goal, the 1 second half goal that we had after the 5 in the first half, there was a pass from, I think it was Jorginho actually, to Havertz that he just brought down on his foot like he had Velcro on his cleat, on his boots. And that was something. And then he cut back and crossed it to the goal scorer. I think it was Ben White, actually. Was just, he looked like he had swagger all of a sudden. And he's been playing like that. I just watched this morning. He didn't have his best game in front of the net this morning for Germany, but he's playing with a swagger that you just love to have that back. And I think he's only up from there. And that's, his ability now to play in that position in the 9 might be changing some minds on what type of striker or forward we need to buy, whether it's a all out Osherman Watkins type, or somebody maybe that can be a hybrid between the right wing and the number 9 to give Saka a break when Havertz is playing there and Saka needs a break or something like that, because obviously Reece Nelson's not going to be there to deputize. And Gabriel Jesus could do that, but he's also got the injury problems.
Yeah, the injuries are kind of catching up. As well, we've got quite a few injury-prone players. Like I know Senchenko as well. He's another one that I don't know what we'll do about him in the summer. I'm pretty sure he might have a bit of time left, but I don't know if we would sell him. The left-back position as well is another one. But yeah, I think with Havertz, I think next season I just feel like he's going to get even better. I think having more squad depth as well, so he can play more competitions. Like I think I've said very much I'd love us to give the FA Cup a chance. I think it would be good I think we need to win some silverware next season. But I just wanted to read this comment as well. Having watched Chelsea for 4 seasons. I didn't understand the purchase, but Arteta is a genius, though. Not sure Arteta will turn at Vieira into a star. That's another one with Vieira. I mean, I reckon he'll probably stay, but it's quite weird because he started off with a good season, and I was really impressed with him, and then it just sort of went away. I mean, I'm pretty sure he did pick up an injury towards the end of the season, but it's not really. I didn't know what to expect when he came, though, to be honest. I think a lot of people did hype him up, and I'm sure he is a good player, but I don't think we've seen the most of him just yet.
Yeah, I mean, here's the difference between Kai and Vieira. Kai was someone that Arteta bought, and you can tell this by the price tag. He bought him to play every game he was available to play.
Yeah.
Whether it was at the 9 or the left 8, he was going to play. And he was given the ability to play through his struggles and to play himself into form and confidence. And we're seeing and we reap the rewards of that. Vieira isn't, unless, God forbid, we have an injury to Martin Odegaard, or unless he really just embraces being, Saka's backup, and with the number of games we're going to have this season, he plays a lot of games. Vieira is always going to kind of be a plug-in, which, a very expensive plug-in, but that's no longer relevant. He's just going to be a plug-in player. And when everybody's healthy, as we had some good luck with this past season in those parts of the park, he's not going to get the opportunities to play through any kind of insecurities or difficult patches, because he's just going to be in for one game or come off the bench for 20 minutes in another game a couple weeks later. So, I don't know that Vieira would be worth selling, because you'd be selling him at a low point. And I do think he has more value. And, if we end up needing him to be in our first team for a long period of time due to an injury to a top player, I kind of back him to grow into that position and turn out to be more valuable than we thought he could be.
Yeah, I definitely think Fiera is not necessarily a starter, but he is someone that I hope, can change the game if he can come on. I mean, Arteta clearly likes him, and I do want to, see a bit more of him next season. I know that towards the end of last season, he picked up a red card. He was suspended for a few games, and then he picked up an injury, and it all just, we didn't really see much of him. But I think he wouldn't be a player that you'd rely on to, score, week in, week out. But I just think if he came off the bench, there's more I want to see of him. And I just feel like next season, I think it's going to be a big season for him, because, I mean, he wasn't like a lot of money the way Havertz was, but I just think, I think as well, when you come from a different league, you just, like I said before, it's a bit of a risk, but I do hope it does pay off. I mean, I do really like him. I just want to say hello to Rene. Maddison versus Harry Winks, 2 former Spurs. Leicester. That'd be a good game, actually, Leicester and Spurs to start off with. Just watching Jacko warm up. Yeah, do you know what? I do. It's really weird, like, watching him for Switzerland, because there's a big. I wanted to hit him. I want to see him do well, but there is a part of me that just misses him. It's just quite strange that he's not at Arsenal anymore, even though it's been a whole season. And I just wonder to myself, like, I wonder how the season would have been if he was here. It's quite, strange that he has moved on, because a lot of us, really miss him. But I want to get your thoughts on Jacko, like, talking on that. When he left, did you think it was the right time, or did you feel like you'd like him to stay for a bit longer?
It was funny. I mean, talk about a redemption arc for a guy with a team, and it certainly was with me as well. But by the time he left, it kind of took me by surprise. I thought maybe one more year. I didn't think he was looking to leave. And then, the opportunity to go back to the Bundesliga, I guess, was too much of a draw for him. And my God, did it work out for him? But I thought that he would stay an extra year. Whether I would have preferred that to. I mean, what would have been the alternative? We would have seen a completely different style of play. We probably would have seen more of Kai Havertz up front earlier. We really did kind of struggle to fill his role last season. We had Havertz underperforming in that position compared to in the 9. We had Trossard there at times. We had, obviously when Rice and Partey were healthy, they were both playing. But it was a bit of a miss last season. I don't know that it would have changed the outcome of the league table. So I think it probably just pretty much came out in the wash, where it didn't really improve us that he left. It didn't hurt us that he left. In specific situations, you could see places where you're like, I wish Jacko was there, but I was one of those guys that got really, really, really irked with him for the whole Crystal Palace thing.
Me too. Yeah.
I understood the whole reason why, and no one ever should be subject to abuse.
Yeah.
But I felt, and this is one of those times I got a little bit out of my skin of saying, you don't know what it's like to be these guys, and I started, getting annoyed at him for kind of making these public displays of dissatisfaction with the fans, because we know that the people that are being absolutely awful to guys like that are 0.0001% of the fan base. And yet his actions were aimed, whether he liked it or not, at the entire fan base. And so I had a real problem with him for a long time. But the best thing about being a grown-up is that you can evolve your opinion about somebody when they evolve their actions, or even just get different perspective on things. And I just, the longer he stuck around, the more I started to understand his place in the team under Mikel Arteta, the things he offered to the team, the way he really kind of is as a person, and to trust his teammates who clearly think the world of him. I was able to get past the whole Shaka thing. And I'm sure that made Granit Xhaka feel much better that I got past being angry at him.
Yeah.
No, and I was nothing but happy for him this season. I was blown away by how, what they did this season is incredible. I was jealous of it. And, it's just one of those amazing stories. The times they came back to rescue a point or win all 3 points in those last 2 months to keep that unbeaten streak alive is insane. But I wish him all the success. I enjoy watching him for Switzerland. And if you have the opportunity, he's going to score today. I'm feeling it in my bones. He's guaranteed to get a goal today. So put some money on it.
Yeah, it is nice to watch him, for Switzerland, and I do hope he has a really good tournament. And I think for me, I was like you when that situation happened. I saw it in a few ways, because I know he was going through like abuse that a lot of us probably didn't realize to the extent it was happening. But like you said, the majority of Arsenal fans, are really good people and wouldn't ever do that. But I wouldn't really class these people fans that send abuse personally. But I think obviously that was tough for him. But I think it did take time for him to earn that respect back. I always felt like we could improve on him, but I think the last season he had, I was blown away by him, because I think for me, the amount of goals he was scoring were absolutely amazing. And I've watched him when he first came, and how he left. I think he left on such a positive note.
He scored 2 goals in the first 15 minutes of the final game of the season, right in front of us at the North.
That was so lovely.
I was there with my son, and we were just absolutely. We're right behind the goal that he was scoring into on the clock end, and we were like, this is just one of those moments that you couldn't write if you wanted to. When has Granit Xhaka ever scored 2 goals, much less in the first 15 minutes of the game or something in the final game he's playing for the club? It's storybook. You can't come back to the team after that. You have to leave on that note.
I know it's so lovely that you left on that note as well. And you could see he felt the love from the fans, which I think made it, extra special. And I feel really happy with how he's left it. I think Arsenal will always have a place in his heart, but I think we kind of need a new start in a way with Declan Rice. But Xhaka, I suppose we'll never know how he would have impacted the season, but I don't think it would have changed a lot in the sense of who would have won it. I think those are just factors, with how Man City are, you've got to be perfect. And I wanted to actually, Phil has actually sent a question as well, which is actually pretty good. Question: of the current squad, who are you expecting the most improvement from? That is a good question. I still don't know right now. That's a really good question.
Yeah, I mean, it's the club played at such a high level at last season. I mean, there wasn't anyone. I mean, Zinchenko, I think, certainly didn't have his best season. I think he's capable of more, but I also think that he just inherently lacks some qualities defensively that make it dangerous for us to play him over a Urian Timber or even a Tomiyasu. And so I do think he's possibly surplus to requirements if we can get good money for him. So I don't know that I could say I expect him to improve this season, because I expect him not to play that much this season if he's still at Arsenal. So, I mean, as far as improvement's concerned, I think the easy answer here would probably be Gabriel Martinelli. And I said that before I saw Phil's comment, because Martinelli, we know it's not even about improving. It's about regaining the form that he seems to have lost a little bit of last season, because I mean, that guy is an amazing player on his day. And I think just between, a bit of injury and competing for time with Trossard, I think he's going to be an absolute star again next season. Now, if you'd asked me this last season, I would have told you ESR right away. And I would have been wrong, as it turned out, over the course of the season. But, I think Martinelli is the real deal, and he's going to both have the opportunity and the capability to go back from being the 6 he might have been last season to being a 10, and as far as quality is concerned.
I think Martinelli definitely. I think it's quite difficult as well when you go through a lot of injuries, and it's hard to come back from that. I mean, you look at Jesus; he's had quite a few similar injuries, and I think towards the middle, kind of ending the season, I did feel disappointed with his performances. I felt like he wasn't as good as he has been, and I feel like we've seen so much more of him. That's why we've got expectations of him. So I felt with Jesus, I felt disappointed that he wasn't able to score more, provide more for the team. But I think as well, it's kind of hard because of the injuries he's gone through, like Senchenko as well. I think it's weird with Senchenko. I don't know where we would go from here with him, because in all honesty, if he left now, I would be okay with that. And that's just because the season he's had, I just feel as though defensively, I just don't think he's able to improve at the moment. I think you can see when he goes forward, he's incredible to watch, and that's why I love him. But the defense side just worries me a lot.
Well, there's a common point that some people will be making. So this is certainly not original to me, but when we signed Gabby Jesus and Zinchenko 2 seasons ago from Man City, we were signing guys who were absolutely going to slot into the squad and improve us drastically.
Yeah.
And 2 seasons later, we have improved as a club to the level where they are now not likely to be our best options in the first 11. That doesn't have to be them sucking. That can be, us. We were here and we signed players here, and now we're here and there's still players that are here. It's the evolution of the game. It's what successful teams do is they improve to where players who improved them a couple seasons ago now need to be improved upon. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's how it's supposed to work. So, love Gabby Jesus, love Zinchenko. I think they both offer a lot when they're healthy and getting a good run of games in certain areas. But, are they the starting number 9 and the starting left back for us in games that matter? I have 1, if not 2 options I'd rather play in front of both at this point.
Yeah, I think at the moment, and I think with Timber coming back, I reckon they're more bench players. I mean, I don't mind having them in the bench, but I think as well, making money throughout, the season, getting more players in, I think is going to be important. But I honestly don't mind having them. I mean, Zinchenko can always play in midfield, and I suppose maybe that might suit him better, because I suppose if he's a defender at the back, it's more pressure on him, and I just think he offers so much more forward, but I feel like we didn't see enough of that. throughout the season. But I think as well, like we mentioned before, Martinelli, I think with the injuries he's had, it's been quite difficult for him. But I think next season, we know what a world-class, incredible player. I love Martinelli. I think he's amazing. I just think next season, him coming out of last season, he's had time, hopefully, throughout the season. We'll see a lot more of him. But there's also the argument of who would you start, Martinelli or Trossard, because I loved them both. I don't think who I'd want to see, really.
They are the perfect 60 minutes and 30 minutes players. And like Martinelli starts for me if he's in good form and plays 60, and then you bring on Trossard for the last 27 to 30 minutes or so, and the right back is just looking at the sky saying, what do I have to, he's exhausted by that point. They're not going to sub him out. And he's like, what do I do now? I've got this 21-year-old, 22-year-old Brazilian now running at me with pace. And how am I going to deal with this? They are I wish we had that on the other side with Saka. And that's really, probably the most important thing other than, that and a left 8, or a 6 so that Rice can play the left, or whatever, another midfielder and a Trossard for Saka. The Trossard type for Saka. That's what I think we need. And if you look at Martinelli's injury history, he had 2 relatively minor injuries last year, but they were 3 or 4 weeks out, 3 weeks out. And he didn't come back from either one of them with absolutely great form. And if you remember a few seasons ago when he had a few injuries or one fairly serious injury, and when he came back from that injury, he couldn't get in the squad. That was the time frame where Willian was starting instead of him all the time, and people were getting aggravated, saying, people with agendas against Mikel Arteta were saying that he was ruining Gabriel Martinelli, like he was like he just was shutting him out of the team and that sort of thing, which is obviously absolute BS. But he was protecting Gabriel Martinelli because I don't think that he necessarily snaps back from injuries as quickly as some other players might. It's too soon to say this about Jorginho Timber, but my God, did he look good against Everton when he came in?
Yeah, he was amazing. I felt so excited watching him.
In like however many minutes it was that he played in that game, 30 maybe. I mean, he looked like world class again, and he was just coming back from. So it was, some players just come back full steam, and others. And again, I think I got to point to this being a mental or psychological issue. Some players need longer to get their feet back under them, and Gabby Martinelli probably, his injury at the beginning of the season and his injury in March last season just kind of broke up that season to where he never really got that thorough run. But thank goodness we had a guy in Trossard that could deputize for him.
Yeah, I think it's hard because every single player is different with how they deal with injuries. Some players might come back sooner, but I think with Timbo as well, he looked so ready to be back, and I felt like we saw a glimpse of what he'll be like next season, hopefully. So I was delighted.
We saw him play over the summer here in the U.S. last season, and I would imagine we'll see him play in the summer again this season, because I don't think he's playing in the Euros. I hope not, anyway. But it was the revelation of the summer was like, oh my God, this guy is ridiculous. And then we just had that whole off season. So next season, praying that he stays healthy. We got some options, some different ways to play. Senchenko can be a situational backup if we don't sell him, and come into games where we do need him to press forward and invert. It's exciting. It's really, really exciting. He's that sneaky, can't wait to see that thing next season. And I, as much as I hated this expression, and I think you probably know where I'm going with this, it is like a new signing.
Yeah.
We literally have someone who we signed last summer who's going to be like we signed him this summer, and I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I'm really excited too. I just wanted to also say hi to a few people that have just joined. Hi to Early Doors Football TV. Good to see you in here. Big up to you, Wookie Cookie, as well. Thank you all as well for watching. I wanted to answer this before we round up the show, because I think it's a good point to kind of speak a bit about Smith Rowe Nelson, because both of them could leave. I mean, I know Smith Rowe is a bit more controversial. A lot of fans might want to make the money, but I just wanted to actually answer this question first. Are we over fond of Smith Rowe and Nelson because they are academy boys? Honestly, I think because Smith, I feel like more because we've seen Smith Rowe grow a lot, and there was a good season he had when Aubameyang was here and Saka. He did really well, and I think because he's an academy player, maybe some of us might have a bit more of a connection to him, but I do see potential in him, and that's why I would like him to stay. But I know that we do want to see, we need money, don't we, to buy players. But what do you think of that comment? Do you think that's true, or what do you think?
I think there's truth to it.
Yeah.
I mean, if we signed ESR from let's say we signed him from Huddersfield instead of loaning him to Huddersfield and getting him back. If we signed him from there, there wouldn't be the same attachment to. I mean, I once thought and said, unfortunately, because I look stupid for it now, but that he had the potential. I wasn't saying he was a better player than Saka, but I said he had the potential to be the better player of the two. Probably more because I just thought he was the future number 10 of Arsenal Football Club, and we hadn't even smelled the ability to get Martin Odegaard on our team yet by the time I was saying that. So, because I thought that of him and I've seen him at his best, we've all seen him at his best.
Yeah.
He feels like the one that's going to get away. And you almost feel like when he gets into it, you almost feel like he needs a move. And when he gets to wherever he's going, and I hope it's not Villa, but when he gets to wherever he's going, he'll find his form again. Maybe not this coming season, but he'll still be a great professional footballer, and it'll feel like he's the one that got away. Reece Nelson, he's been here long enough. He's had opportunities in the squad. He's had a loan spell to Hoffenheim. I think he doesn't feel as much of the guy that we've seen come directly out of the academy to the team.
Yeah.
So there's not that level of attachment, but yeah, I mean, people always are going to look at these guys and A, be a little more emotionally attached to them, and B, if and when they succeed elsewhere, like Serge Gnabry did and Daniel Malin, we're gonna treat it like, why didn't we keep them? But you just can't do that. And there's 5 times the examples of guys that leave and go to another team and don't make it than the ones that got away. So that's how football works.
Yeah, I think like you said, I think there is a bit of truth in it. I think especially with Smith Rowe, I think because he's come through the academy, he's been on loan, he's come back, and he's earned his place, rightly so. And I know the injuries, haven't done him any good, and it has taken him time to come back. I think there's a part of me that wants to see him for one last season to see if we can get more out of him, but I also get it'd be a good chance to get the money. But I think with Reece Nelson, I think I'll always have that respect and love for him, especially scoring that winner against Bournemouth. I think incredible.
Yeah, I mean that. Certain moments you will never be able to take those moments away from us.
Yeah.
But the rational side of us have to recognize that that moment isn't a 30 million pound moment going forward in the future, and that's what we'd be giving up by just holding on to him for no good reason.
Yeah.
ESR and Fiera are probably mutually exclusive at this point. One, you can't really keep both of them if you're trying to upgrade elsewhere.
Yeah.
And at this point, based on the finances and Arteta's viewpoint, I couldn't see Fiera being sold over ESR. ESR's got the larger profit capability, and Arteta seems to favor Fiera to him when there's an opportunity. So I think it's coming to a close.
I think with Reece Nelson, I like him, but I just also feel like if Saka's injured, I think Reece Nelson would do a good job, but I don't think he would fit in Saka's role and do what Saka can do. But I think as well it would be good as well when we mentioned about the transfers to bring someone that could help Saka, because I think Saka has been overplayed. But I think with Reece Nelson, I think as well for him and his career, he does deserve game time, because I do see a very good footballer in him. But I think at the moment he wouldn't be in our starting 11. Like Nketiah as well, he's another one that I think we definitely should sell. I mean, for him as well, like he'd want to for his career. I mean,
kill it at Palace. He'd do great at Palace. I have no doubt about that. And they're a team that I would have no problem selling Nelson or Nketiah to, and hope that they thrive there. Villa's a different story. But Palace is a perfect destination for an ex-Arsenal player, and we've seen it a handful of times before.
Yeah, I think it'd be a really good move for him, because I think he's a good footballer. I definitely think he is a Premier League football. I mean, people think he's Championship level, which I think is a bit disrespectful. I think he's better than that, but I just think at Arsenal, if you're a striker, especially the season when Jesus got injured, he's expected, right, to do it all the time when we need him, and I think that was a lot on his shoulders. But I think, I look back on Eddie, and I just think we've had some great times with him, but, even he didn't get much game time throughout the season. He'd come on for maybe 10 minutes, if Arteta wanted to throw all of our attacking players on, and he wouldn't do much. But also, I just feel as though he's that type of player where if he gets, headers in the box, he'll take them, but he's not really good at other things. But I do like Eddie, but I think I do see him leaving as well, especially like Phil said, Tierney as well. He's another one that I don't think we're going to be keeping, unfortunately. But
Jacko and Tierney playing against each other. Our whole leadership squad from a couple seasons ago.
Oh my God, remember that leadership? I know. I used to really want Tierney to be our captain.
I did too. I was 100% up for that because I thought he was the guy, and I was surprised when they didn't make him the captain over Odegaard. But then again, look at what's happened. So that's why I'm not coaching Arsenal Football Club.
I mean, I think at the time, I think my top two really were Tierney and Gabriel, but also I was happy with Odegaard, to be honest, because I didn't mind him being the captain, but I just didn't really expect him to be the captain. But I think we're seeing now what a great captain. I love that comment.
I laughed at that because that's I mean, you could only say that that's the only thing you could say when you look at me and my wife standing together.
Oh, I love that, and I've really enjoyed this podcast. I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on. It's been a really good conversation. I'd love to have you on again as well sometime.
Anytime you want me, I will be here. I really, really enjoyed it. And do you mind if I say a quick word about tomorrow night?
Absolutely,
as you know, and everyone in the chat, we have just, I don't even know the word to describe it, just devastatingly lost someone so important to this Arsenal family in Kevin Campbell. I just still in shock 5 days later that this has actually happened. He'd been sick for a while, but I mean, this guy just was a force of nature and of health and positivity and care and all of that. And we will be doing a show on the Highbury squad where it belongs, because that's where Kevin lived. And I hope you guys will all join us. It'll start at about 9:45 p.m. to 10 p.m. whenever the final whistle goes for Italy, Spain tomorrow night. There's going to be a ton of people, both in studio, sending in videos. It's going to be a tough pod, but we hope that you'll join us because the more people share their memories of Super Kev, the better. So if I know he was close to you, I know he loved you and he supported you, and he made everyone who he supported and knew feel like they were his best friend. And even though I knew that, our relationship wasn't singular or different than your relationship with him or other people's relationship with him, it felt like it was, and that's all that mattered. I just can't say enough about how much I miss this guy. And I will be saying this tomorrow night, but I'll say it here first. I grew up watching the Arsenal of the late 80s, and I was fortunate enough to watch David Rocastle play. And 30 years later, I was fortunate enough to meet and get to know his children and his wife, and a more wonderful experience and family and example of the Arsenal way I could never have ever imagined. And Kevin Campbell was every bit what David Rocastle was to the fan club, to the supporters, to the club, and to his colleagues. His colleagues were normal people like us,
Yeah,
not athletes, not elite journalists or celebrities, but just run of the mill people like you and me. So that just love, and he will never be duplicated, imitated. I mean, and oh, by the way, he was a really phenomenal footballer.
Yeah, it's quite nice because a lot of people have been speaking about him as a person, and we all know as well as a footballer what he did. Do you know what I've really actually liked on the internet recently? Everton. I think they've posted some really beautiful things, and I just wanted to say that was amazing to look at. It's been really nice. I mean, I believe Kev knew he was loved before, he passed away and he got ill. We all love Kev. I mean, him on the hybrid squad, him and Soph had this great, they were just amazing to watch. Had a great duo, and it was nice as well when you got invited on and speaking to Kev. I do feel sorry for those that never really knew Kev or got to know him. It's a shame, but I think that show.
He was quiet about how incredible he was. Like he didn't want attention, and he didn't want the recognition. He wanted to put his powers behind giving other people attention and recognition.
Yeah, he never liked it on him. He always put it on other people. He always spoke about how other people were amazing. And I think, you make a good point about the YouTube world, about, he's done so many videos with so many podcasters. And I just think it's so lovely that he's taken time out of his day and he's genuinely interested in other people. And I think that's what makes him so special. And I think, it's a hard show as well for Sophie and everyone that's going to be involved. But I think it's also important that it does happen. I think, you do feel a bit better. Maybe I think because it's been a few days now, it's obviously not any easier, but I think we can be able to talk about it now without crying, because it was quite.
We won't be able to talk about it without crying, but we can talk about it without breaking, because we will all have each other. We will all have each other there in chat, in studio, in thoughts and prayers, and that tomorrow feels like a door we all have to walk through, where on this side of the door is just grief, and on the other side of the door is enlightenment and just positive feelings and energy and support coming everywhere. And that's what makes this Arsenal family so unique and so worth participating in, even in the worst of times.
I think it's so special to have such a loving community, especially you've seen it online, all the incredible messages of support. And Kev would be really honoured with all the messages that people have left. So please do as well check out the hybrid squad tomorrow, 9:45, pretty sure. I wanted to let you know, I've spoken about Mike about this and I put a tweet about it. I will also do a little video of people's messages for Kev on my channel as a little video, because I think it'd be nice. I know Kev's not here, but he'd really appreciate everyone's support as well. But
he's watching. He's watching, smiling, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I think definitely. Do you know what? When I was watching ITV, I think I really respect Righty for how he dealt with everything as well, because I remember, I'm pretty sure the day we might have, publicly we found out as well, he was on, doing football on the as part of the Euros, and it must be so hard to not think about what's happened and just focus on other things. So Righty's done incredible. I know especially Kevin's football friends, his family, I think, to go deal with it, how they're dealing with it is very inspirational. But please do tune into the hybrid squad tomorrow. Do show lots of support to Sophie, everyone's involved, as it will be a very special show, but also be amazing to speak about the memories everyone has with Kev, because there's been so many amazing stories for the past few days. But I just wanted to thank you all as well for tuning in today. It's been so lovely to do this with you, Mike. It's been lovely to chat with you all. But please do as well smash the like button for me, to subscribe to my channel if you are new, and I will see you all on my next video. Bye.